Now I'm at the point you wanna be with me. I'm vibing out at a higher frequency, cause everything that I want and I'm gonna be, it's when I wake up, that's when I start to dream. Someone you love is talking down, here is the plan. Let it fall through like a handful of sand. Nothing happens overnight, what you must understand. If you dwell on the bad, then you don't stand a chance. Something you want upset, saying why it ain't mine yet. That's because now you have yet to change your mindset. People don't put their mind to rest while they're so wired. A lot of people go to sleep and wake up tired. Power of positivity and persistence. Say that I can, we'll just sit back and witness. Make an impact when our time is done. Make money, help people, and have lots of fun. Whoa.
Welcome to Office Hours, hosted by legendary sports executive, entrepreneur, and investor David Meltzer, where the brightest millionaires, billionaires, and entrepreneurs in business, sports, and entertainment get together to talk about success, failure, and everything in between.
You have the responsibility of providing value to them.
Take a deep dive into the mind of some of the world's most impactful guests.
Really, the goal isn't to be disciplined. The goal is for it to be intuitive.
To share their strategies and tools to dominate their respective fields.
Just decided I'm going to prove them wrong because I feel like this is progressive. This is something that is new and different.
David Meltzer hosts Office Hours.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. I'm so blessed to be here today. And I'm bringing on my friend here, Mr. Sean Dill. He is the head of the Black Diamond Club. He is the head of Quest 7. He is an incredible leader within the health service community, the service provider community. And we both have a shared passion, Sean, as you hear Jake in the background, by the way. We have this shared passion for sales. And every profession requires sales. Some people, it's more apparent than others. And I use parent because the greatest place where it's not apparent is being a parent. And I find that my sales skills are the greatest skill that I have when it comes to being a parent. But let me go ahead. Jake is, oh, I'm sorry there. Hey, Jake, can you hear? Jake, can you hear me? Awesome. So we'll bring Sean Dill on here as he comes to help me out. But, you know, I was talking about sales, and I think a lot of people, when they know their essence to be their sales, their skills, and their desire, don't realize that everyone needs sales skills, and they're not always apparent. And I say apparent because anyone that's a parent probably knows how important it is to be able to sell. And to understand what selling is. Selling to me is, and I try to simplify it the best I can, is the ability to share a vision while articulating a quantitative value to exceed what you're asking for. And when we simplify the understanding of sales to the prospect of, hey, look, what I'm trying to do is share a vision, and to do so, my prioritized objective is to quantify and articulate that quantification to exceed what I'm asking for. And I think it's really, really important for people to understand at its core that quantitative value of how to do that, et cetera. And I wanted to bring one of my best friends in the world up, an expert at selling, because he's not in the business of selling. He's in a business of sharing a vision to a community of people who are healers, a community of people that are there to help others and know others to help others with the non-negotiable priority of life, their health. And so let's start by welcoming my friend Sean himself, Dr. Sean Dill. I nicknamed him the Shank Dilly. They've now created a drink at your local bar, so make sure you're ordering the Shank Dilly. Sean, thanks for joining me to talk about my favorite topic and one of yours. How do we share a vision and articulate the quantitative value? Welcome.
Thank you so much. Super excited to be here. Super excited to see you on my screen. I'll see you in a couple hours in person here.
Yeah, I'm going to be speaking at a sales seminar here, and it's the Sales Matters with the Black Diamond Club. And I will say that jacket, he has a Travis Matthews jacket on for those who can't see him. You look great. You look great. Now you're starting to dress like me. Congratulations. I always like to get people's perspective on sales that aren't, the vice president of sales of Manpower, or, a certain sales rep for solar or a door-to-door salesperson. What perspective do you have on sales as an executive of such a large organization?
Well, like you said, I work with a lot of service providers. And so the people that I work with have a vision and passion for some sort of service that they provide themselves as a human asset. They're serving humanity. And what I love about it is it doesn't matter what it is. If they write copy, if they cut hair, if they are in the medical space, they literally believe that the service that they provide to the world can literally change the world. That's super cool. When you find that in a person, then you realize that we actually have a moral obligation to share those gifts with the world. And so my wife, Lacey, and I, we became aware of this a while back, a few years ago, when we had the realization working with healthcare providers that in reality, the world's greatest healers, the people that have the greatest gifts, they live in relative obscurity simply because they don't embrace the concepts of being an entrepreneur, of being marketing, sales, and good stewardship of their finances. And that's a shame, because social media, like what we're doing now, allows us to amplify a voice. And you and I are close. We both know each other. I think that we would agree that neither of us is like the world's greatest in any one particular thing, but we have a platform. We have the ability to amplify our voice. The shame is that there are artists, there's musicians, there are people that are extremely talented that nobody knows who they are because they don't know how to sell. And so selling helps you to bring your true God-given gifts to the rest of the world. It's the bridge, it's the conduit. It's not a negative thing. It's something that we should all embrace so that we're living our full life potential.
And there's so much math involved in sales. And in this, I'll talk about sharing a vision with our skills, our knowledge, and our desire. And like you said, if we don't know how to share that vision and we don't have a community to share it with, mathematically, we're not going to have the impact, or monetarily, we're not going to receive enough support to continue to aggregate, accelerate, compound the opportunities, options, and touches of favor that we can bless people with according to our skills, our knowledge, and our desire. Have you figured out any mathematical strategies to help clarify to people, hey, this is a good opportunity mathematically to, number one, the more people that we share a vision with, the better our statistical success. The more people we convert, the better the statistical success. What are some of the statistics, the quantifiable measurements that you help business owners, service providers with in order to accommodate certainly motivation, but let alone inspiration to make more money, help more people, and have more fun?
Definitely. It's It's a matter. It's like at bats, right? It's like in baseball, and it totally is a law of averages. You know, there when you look at stats relative to like say batting average, you have to have a certain number of plate appearances in order for it to count, right? So if you've only had 5 plate appearances and you're batting 800, people would know, like, look, statistically, this is skewed because you've only appeared 5 times. So we have a requisite amount of plate appearances before we're even statistically, before it's not a statistical anomaly. If we understand that, the first thing in sales to understand is we have to get a lot of at bats. And so on the front side, when we talk about top of funnel and we use fancy words like that, the whole thing is we need to be able to be in front of as many people as possible. And I think that inside as a human being, sometimes we have these limitations or negative thoughts that enter our mind, self-doubt that, well, we really don't want to share. Listen, you know me, I am an introvert. So it doesn't, the law of averages just right there don't go in my favor. I'm not the one that's out there trying to talk to everybody and be the life of the party. However, when it comes to trying to share a gift, I realize that I have to do that. Like I want to get out in front of people. So number one is law of averages. You have to get a lot of at bats. Number two is when you get an at bat, you have to swing the bat. I can guarantee you this: if you step up to the plate and your goal is, I'm just going to take every pitch and see if I can get a walk to first base, eventually they're going to figure this out and they're just going to throw, you know, a 70-mile-an-hour, you know, loft it right down the middle and get you called out on strikes. And so many people say, yeah, I get it, Sean. I am getting a lot of at bats, but I'm like, yeah, but you're not swinging, right? In order to make the swing in sales, we have to, again, leverage this concept of math. I love that this is the topic. We have to make deposits, and we're very aware of this right now with the banking world, right? We talk about the depositors. And so we deposit into the situation, into the relationship, because sales happens between two humans. We can strongly take advantage of this. Thankfully, they're talking about now AI, maybe doing some sales stuff, running a lot of like the chat sequences. But what's interesting is AI can't make deposits of value into the human ecosystem. It can just answer questions. It can lead them down a path. But I think that what you need to do is what I call is community goodwill deposits, goodwill coins. So I'm going to just deposit goodwill into the sales process in the very beginning before I make a swing. So I'm not going to make an ask until I have provided goodwill into the situation. And I think that's where that mathematical equation comes in. A lot of great salespeople intuitively understand when the threshold has been met with the goodwill deposits, and they can make an ask, commonly known as the law of reciprocity. But if all I do is ask you for things and you're constant, maybe initially because you're a great guy, you give, like you acquiesce. But if I keep doing that, eventually it's going to wear on you because I'm not making sufficient deposits. And if I'm only making withdrawals, eventually I'm going to put the bank under. I'm going to collapse the system. Sales is full of people who are really skilled at just conning people, in essence, into giving up their goodwill without making a deposit. And long term, that can't work. Mathematically, if you make more withdrawals then you make deposits, you are going to be bouncing checks, right? People talk about you're writing checks that you can't cash. Well, in sales, this happens a lot. You see a lot of people come onto the sales scene, enter the entrepreneurial scene. They make a lot of wild promises. They have strong social media presence, but they can't cash those checks because they've failed to make those goodwill deposits. And then poof, they're gone. And so I think that the whole game is upfront. You got to get enough at bats. 2, you've got to swing the bat when the pitch comes down the middle. 3, you've got to understand the law of reciprocity. You've got to make goodwill deposits with your value that you add into the ecosystem before you ask for a withdrawal. And if you have collectively made more deposits than you're asking for a withdrawal, you will be able to, in the law of compounding interest, you will be able to compound your effect. You will be able to actually end up at the end of the day, because you're pulling a little bit from here and a little bit from there, with more aggregate, more than what you started with. And I think that's the whole name of the game in sales. And it does boil down at the end of the day to a mathematical equation.
Yeah, within the context of that math, and it all makes sense, you know, it's really important to practice because you mentioned the deposits and the withdrawals. A lot of times people are making the deposits, but they're not filling out the deposit slips. In my opinion, what I mean by that is they haven't practiced articulating the quantitative value. They're in love with their product. They also fall into a trap of overselling, back-end selling, lying, manipulating, and cheating because they love their product unintentionally. They assume or come across like they're overselling, back-end selling, lying, manipulating, cheating because they assume that they've effectively communicated their deposit. And it is exactly like, imagine going to the bank and just putting $10,000 cash onto the bank teller's counter and walking away. And they have no idea where the $10,000, but you assume they knew it was Sean Dill, they knew it was into this specific account. And I see a lot of people not practicing articulating the quantitative value because they make an assumption that everybody knows that they made that deposit. And I see a lot of people with great intentions falling down because they haven't practiced articulating quantitative value to exceed what they're asking for. So they look like a taker, they look like a bleeder, and they look as if the balance sheet is not equitable in its nature. Before I get a comment from you, Jake, we're right at 15 minutes. I always like to reset the room. So a lot of people have rejoined us and additionally joined us. Can you just set the room real quick? And I'm gonna have Sean touch on how important practice of the sharing of a vision and quantifying and articulating that is.
Yes, I'd be happy to. Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Dave. On Clubhouse is the Ask Me Anything sales training with Dave Meltzer and Sean Dill. Dave's been doing free Friday training for over 23 years. So if you have a question that you'd like to ask, there will be time at the end. So feel free to raise your hand or back channel me if you need to bring you up. If you can share the room here on Clubhouse, you can do that at the bottom. There's a little square with an arrow. You push that, you can share the room on text message, on Twitter, Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, all your favorite social media, and of course here on Clubhouse. So, all right, Dave, I'll pass it back over to you, and let's keep it going.
Perfect. I'm not sure everyone could hear Jake, but he basically reset the room on Clubhouse. Anyway, we're talking about assumption, and in baseball, there's a famous line: "If you assume, you make an ass of you and me," and that's really what we're talking about in sales. Too many people make too many assumptions, and they're not doing the work. How important is it to consider this articulation of quantitative value as a practice, not just a born salesperson?
Yeah, again, I think that just boils down to whether we're playing a short game or a long game. I find it interesting. There's a lot of content out there around money mindset, right? How we think about our money, how we value our money. One thing that I find is most people, even if they struggle with a money mindset, have at least some idea of how much money they have. There's a quantitative value. Some people are intimately in touch with their money because they check in every day. They understand their balances. They understand where their money is. Other people, not so much, but what they do is they kind of live, they get deposits into their bank account. They run their ATM card until it runs to zero, and then they can't use it anymore. And then they get another paycheck and they do it again. So there's a quantitative understanding of how much money you have. True selling in my mind is about leveraging relationships in order to create these win-win scenarios for your prospect and for yourself, right? Maybe I'll circle back and talk about the transaction of selling, but inside of this, there is a quantitative balance. I feel like your relationships are just as, if not more important than your bank balance. So if you have an app on your phone where you can access the balance of how much money's in your checking account, your money market account, and your investment accounts, why do we not have a place where we are checking in with the status of our relationships? Now in sales, again, if we lose that human touch, I have a CRM. But what we're talking about here is really understanding the checks and balances of where we are on the relationship scale, and especially in the sales world. Like where I am I in a place where I can go and ask for the order? Am I at a place where I should ask for the sale? Or am I at a place where I still need to boost it up? Like if I know that my bank account only has $100 in it, and I want to take my wife out to a nice restaurant to have dinner, I need to wait. I can't go tonight because it's going to be embarrassing when I pull out my card and they're like, Sean, you have insufficient funds. This happens a lot in sales though, because we don't check in. We don't know where we are on that quantitative scale. Then we make the ask and we say, hey, Dave, how would you like to buy my something or another? And I have insufficient funds. And you say no, not because you don't like the offer, not because you're rejecting the thing that you don't see value in what I'm putting forward to you, but because I have insufficient funds in the community goodwill that's been created between you and I. You don't trust me. You don't know if the offer is valid. You don't know if at the end of the day, because it's intangible, if I'm going to produce on it. All of those things stack up to where it causes us then to make these mistakes. And then what happens? You know what happens? I make an ask with insufficient funds and I take it personally. I'm like, Dave doesn't like me. Dave must think I'm a jerk. And then that's how I start feeding this negative feedback loop. I'm like, see, I knew I shouldn't have been doing that Meltzer sales training. They tricked me. And now I feel bad about myself. I'm not doing Friday trainings anymore. I'm not going to ask people. I'm not going to tell people. I'm not going to make the close. And that we get ourselves stuck in these negative cycles because we're trying to cash checks that we don't have the funds to cash. If you want to ask for $100 offer, we don't need as much goodwill banked as if I'm going to ask for 1,000 or if I'm going to ask for 10,000 or 100,000. It takes time. True sales on high ticket offers is a long game. And we have to play that long game. I do want to circle back on the transaction. I ask people like, hey, what actually are we selling? And I get a lot of different answers. I'm selling my time or I'm selling my expertise in exchange for their money. I always tell people, I think if we could frame it this way, it will help. What we're really selling is I'm putting up my reputation in exchange for your commitment. Now, your commitment comes in two forms. Your commitment comes financially, so you're going to commit some sort of finances to the transaction, but it also comes in the form of time. Right? So no matter what, the sales transaction will require your time. There might be, I sell you something and it requires training, or I sell you something and it requires your engagement. But here's a great way to think of this. Before I make the ask for the transaction, I have to say to myself, am I willing at this moment in the journey to stake my reputation on this? Because it takes a long time to build up your reputation, and it takes a split second to make. How embarrassing is it really when you bounce a check, right? And I think we've all been there in life. It's embarrassing, and it takes a long time to rebuild even yourself back up after that. So it's the same thing when I am making inappropriate asks at inappropriate moments in the sales cycle. It damages my reputation with the other person. That makes it even more difficult to circle back and get that sale, but also inside of your community, because you will spread this like, oh, don't buy from Sean. He's always selling these things he can't come through on. He doesn't value us as people. He just sees us as bank accounts. And so this is something that we have to think every time before I ask for the sale. Is my reputation in a place? Am I willing to stake my reputation? Have I banked enough goodwill that I can put my reputation on the line and make this ask?
And I think one of the other things that I've learned, and you bring up this great relationship between commitment and reputation, but within the context of that, as you grow, there's still the 10% that no matter what are going to live below the line in blame, shame, justification. There's going to be 10% of relationships that no matter what you do, your credibility in the relationship will always exceed the commitment that they make. In fact, in the last 7 years, as I've implemented the trust and vet process into all of my investments, the only time they failed is on the reputation or credibility of the individual, not the product. The product is or isn't what was represented by the person, and the person is the person that has let me down. And I'm much more forgiving when that person falls in the 10% that they've already, have kind of like in the woke movement. There's the untouchables out there. Chris Rock can go ahead and do a completely inappropriate comedy skit, and 10% of the people are going to hate him, but he nails no matter what he says the other 90%. And I think you have the same thing involved in sales, that your reputation will always have those who are attacking it through blame, shame, and justification. The most dishonest people that I've done business with are the ones who blame me the most. It's like a given commitment reputation, and so those people that don't live up to their commitments and are living below the line, I think it's important to have a relationship, not only to know when we're selling, but also a relationship with understanding there's going to be a certain amount of people that are going to continually attack you, judge you, and try to hurt your reputation, even if you're living in the deception mindset and capability of the truth.
You know, I don't want to get super biblical on you, but that's a lesson that I've had to learn as well. And I think that all of us struggle, and it comes, you know, with degrees of success. We struggle with this. But the blessings, super important, is that the blessings are intended for you, and your blessings will be bestowed upon you in front of your enemies. And so one of the things that's super difficult is, like, we struggle with this, but you have the 10% is necessary for you to receive the blessings that are intended to you. And I mean, if you truly understand this in the universal cycle, that this is a necessary part of you receiving your abundance, so many of us, when we encounter that, and I know this wasn't necessarily the intention of today's training, but when we encounter that, we run from it. So we find these people and we're like, oh my gosh, these people are you know, bad, and I'm going to remove myself from the situation. But if you understand truly that your blessings are intended for you in front of your enemies, you get brought back into the same situation again. Like, how many times, and boy, was this been a big lesson for me, have we seen people who they have a situation, they find a David Meltzer in their life, they receive coaching, they complain about it, Dave gives them some guidance, but they run from the problem, they run from the enemy, and then in 3 or 6 months, they're back in the exact same situation because they are intended to be blessed, but they can't receive the blessing because they keep thinking that they give so much emphasis to this 10%, and they keep thinking that if I could correct that, that will bring the blessing. But the reality is that the 10% are there to bear witness to you and your abundance. Like, you know, I've been on these lives before with you, and there's always a random person who's writing, you know, crazy stuff right in the comments. Those people are there as to serve a purpose, because it allows the other people to bear witness. Like, your abundance comes in front of the haters. The haters are necessary. You can't allow that to distract you or deter you from your true purpose. And listen, I think that's, you know, when you get rejected in sales, that's one of the things that happens, right? We take it so personally. I tell people too, I love this concept. You know, you and I had dinner last night, and at some point during the dinner, the server comes by and the server says, hey, can I get you guys, you know, more iced tea? And we say, oh no, we're good. We don't need more iced tea. We're fine. The server never takes that personally. The server never goes away and says, oh my gosh, I hate those people at that table because they keep rejecting me. We're not rejecting the person. We're just rejecting the idea of more iced tea. And so when we can conceptualize that, then we're good. I don't know if I'm frozen or Dave's frozen. I might be hosting a sales training at this point. If I am, hello. Oh, I think I'm the host now. Got Justin on here. Justin or Jakey, if you could let me know if I'm still in or am I gone?
You're still in. David will jump through.
Hey,
Thanks for your patience, everyone.
Yeah, hey everybody. Dave will be here in just a second. There's the beautiful.
Can I take a
Raluca.
question?
Yeah.
Okay, let's see.
I got my guy Keaton. What's up, Keaton? Dave will be jumping on here in just a little bit. How important is credibility for a pitch? Hey, credibility is the potentially number one thing for your, and I don't love the word pitch, right? I'm gonna just say that, you know, I think it's a great idea for us to work collectively to eliminate this idea of a pitch or an elevator pitch. Let me tell you why. Um, when you say pitch, in my position, I can speak for Dave. Nobody loves to be pitched. Like, how many of you watching now are like, you know what? I hope that today on Friday that I get some really cool pitches. Unless you're a VC, then you probably do hope for cool pitches. But just as a person walking around, I don't want to be pitched. You know, when I definitely don't want to be pitched is in an elevator. Like, how many times have you been in an elevator and then all of a sudden the person just turns around and is like, I got to tell you about these new cold plunge pools that I'm making. They're revolutionizing the world. You're not going to buy a cold plunge in the elevator. It's an inappropriate time to make a pitch. And we give so much emphasis for young entrepreneurs to craft our pitch. I think it would be really great if we just crafted our ability to effectively communicate, right? So we don't need to have necessarily a pitch. We need to get really skilled in effective communication. But inside effective communication, how important is credibility? I mean, that's essential, because if I am telling you things, and we mentioned this earlier, and you fundamentally don't believe that what I'm telling you is true, think about this in any relationship, right? If you are in a romantic relationship with somebody and you fundamentally don't believe that they're telling you the truth, the entire relationship is in jeopardy. I don't even believe when you say we're going to have steak tonight, because there is a fundamental breakdown in the credibility point. So how important is credibility? It's the basis, the foundation for every word that comes out of your mouth. And so I think that before I even start a quote pitch, before I even start to talk to you about what I have to offer into your world, again, from a mathematical standpoint, I need to be sure that the credibility threshold has been reached. Dave Meltzer's back, everybody.
Hey, thank you, Internet. We were talking about the enemy and the interference that the enemies create. And I think God or the universe wanted everyone to feature Sean Dill, Dr. Sean Dill here. And the credibility for me is your credibility is at the highest level, Sean. You always manage and meet my expectations with great abundance, which is an amazing aspect of what you do. But I want to leave you with this, that my mission is to be as close to my potential of credibility. And what I mean by that is, if I'm close to 100% or could ever get to, which I haven't, 100% credibility, then everybody would believe and do what I asked them to do. If I said, hey, everyone, wire me $1 million today and I'll wire you back $2 million on Monday, 100% of the people would find that money if I was 100% credible. But I feel as if a lot of people don't utilize their credibility effectively, and they end up doing only the emotional side of things because people will buy on emotion for logical reasons. But if we're not delivering and managing expectations, we're just creating more void shortages, obstacles for the future. And in that context, to be kind to your future self is to be as honest as possible and be able to articulate that honesty. Sean Dill, I know it's early. I know you have a lot going on, but you always show up for me. And that just builds our credibility in that relationship. You look so very handsome in that Travis Matthews jacket. For those people who can't see, thank you for carrying the show. Thank you for saving the show as the internet dropped off for me. I will see you in a couple hours on stage. Everybody check out Sean Dill. Check out the Black Diamond Club. They have the most valuable events. We're doing a sold out Scotland mastermind. We speak around the world together, and you're bringing joy by teaching people to make money, help people, and have fun. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Have a great day, everybody.
You got it. Thank you, everyone on Clubhouse. I don't know why Mikey's holding up his phone to me, but I'm trying to figure it out. I can't see what he's doing. Is Jake back? Is that what you're trying to tell me? Jake, are you here? No, cannot. I do not know. Thank you. Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, your Clubhouse is muted for some reason. We're trying to figure out why.
Yeah, I'm unmuted. I'm gonna have to log back in then.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Log out, log back in, so we get you all set.
All right. Jake, can you hear me now?
I can hear you perfectly. Dave, Sammy Rock here. One of the takeaways, Dave, that's from your sales training that you did, and what you're ready, we got some more questions on Clubhouse.
I'm ready to go. I want to thank Sean Dill. We had a whole conversation without everyone on Clubhouse, but technology, sometimes when you're raising the frequency and the vibration, it interferes with the technology. Jake, why don't you, for me, just reset the room and then bring up whoever or tell me where to get. I got tons of questions on all the platforms.
Perfect. Yes, thank you, Dave. Quickly resetting the room. This is the Breakfast with Champions. This is David's Free Friday training. He's been doing training for over 23 years. Today's training was the sales training with Sean Dill. We got some time now for some questions and answers. So if you have a question you'd like to ask, feel free to raise your hand or back channel me, and we'll aim to bring you up. Also, as mentioned, if anyone wants to connect with Sean, we're actually in Austin today, Austin, Texas. And if anyone wants to stop by today, feel free to email David. His email is david@dmeltzer.com, david@dmeltzer.com. We're here at the Sheraton at the Capitol. So if anyone is in Austin, please reach out. Dave, I will pass it back over to you if you want to take a question online, and then we'll bring up Joshua here on Clubhouse when you're ready.
Yeah, so the question that I was taking online is just one that I always like to take, which is my valuable lesson learned for the week. And for me, it applies to sales, but it's 0 to 1 takes as much time, energy, emotion, and value as 1 to 100. So we have to create mechanisms to get from 0 to 1, to get started, to get to our first sale, to get to our first relationship, to get to our first podcast, to get to our first speech, to get to our first coaching client, to get to our first client, to get to our first kiss, whatever it may be. It takes more time, energy, emotion, and value to get from 0 to 1 than it does from 1 to 100. And if we're not prioritizing 0 to 1, we're not going to get to 100 or 1,000 or 1,000,000. And so I want everyone to understand their intention. Are we doing, saying, thinking, believing, and feeling everything to get from 0 to 1 with the most prioritized activities in our day? Planned, unplanned sleep, paid for, unpaid for, whatever they may be, according to our value. So 0 to 1 compared to 1 to 100, obviously, if we're not focusing on 0 to 1, but have attached our emotions from 1 to 100, we're not going to get there. So great lesson that I've learned. Jake, I got tons of questions outside of Clubhouse, but if someone wants to come on live, I'd love to take one.
Perfect. Yes, let's bring up Joshua. If you can unmute yourself here on Clubhouse and ask David your question. Welcome. All right. Hey, guys. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. All right. So, David, thank you for joining the mastermind class. I got to be on the other day. So this is actually a question from your talk from Ben that I was dying to ask, because you did such an amazing job talking about accountability with ourselves, and I love that. But one of the questions I had was, how do you choose who to keep you accountable in your life, and what does that practically look like? Because I didn't know if you had different people that you keep accountable for different parts of your life, and how do you know how much to share with those types of people?
Great question. So for me, the number one person to keep me accountable is myself, but the simple things to do, unfortunately, are simple not to do. So most people have a difficult time with the 3 stages of accountability, of holding themselves responsible and learning from it, holding themselves by the law of attraction. What did I do to attract this to myself? And what am I supposed to learn from it? And the most difficult one is to reflect on, what am I doing to participate in this perception? And what am I supposed to learn from it? To live above the line, not in blame, shame, and justification. It's just amazing to me how many people live below the line. And so what I try to do, beyond holding myself responsible in the laws of attraction and participate in the perception, is to find people who sit in the situation that I want to be in and facilitate some sort of mechanism, modality, or methodology that allows me to, again, remind, remember, and recollect to my accountability. And so, if it's my sleep coach, my nutrition coach, if it's my business mentors, if it's a business partner, my employees, my wife, my children, determinative upon what I want to be held or reminded, recollected, and remembered to be accountable for in the realm of responsibility, attraction, and perception, I find those people and ask. I'll give you an example, and it's an embarrassing one, but I'd love to illuminate for me the truth. You know, I have learned about myself that genetically and energetically, I'm an overseller, a back-end seller, sometimes unintentionally a liar, cheater, manipulator, because I was born with certain skills, knowledge, and desires of where not only I was born into genetically and energetically, but even previous genetic inheritances, personality traits, etc., scarce energies, things that promote that type of behavior. And so I have asked over the last 17 years, not in the first 8 years of my marriage, to save my marriage. I've asked my wife to embarrass me, to point out when I am overselling or manipulating or utilizing the emotional capability that I have of speaking to get something that I want, instead of providing value and articulating that value to exceed what I'm asking for. And so, you know, even recently, you know, I had a situation. I was at dinner with some clients and I was talking about the studio that I opened in Orange County. We have a studio at SoFi Stadium. We have a studio at the Wynn. And I said, yeah, you know, I built this new studio in Orange County for my TV shows and movies that we're doing. And my wife just completely embarrassed me and said, you didn't build it. You're an investor. You're a partial owner in it, but you don't own the whole thing. You didn't build the whole thing. You don't even know what's in there. You know, why exaggerate? And you could see and feel the uncomfortable environment that it created. With here I am with clients who my credibility is really important, and she absolutely diminished my credibility, which gave me an opportunity to increase my credibility, because I acknowledged with gratitude my wife for pointing out my detriments, right? My genetic and energetic interference that I'm working on, practicing. And I was able to utilize that to explain, you know, to everyone at the table, hey, look, this is a good example of why I love my wife so much. She's the only one that doesn't give me yes as an answer, and she makes me better. And in order for me to be a better coach, a better client, a better associate, a better partner, I need someone to hold me accountable in a position that, or a situation that I want to be in, which is as close to the truth as I can. And I find that when we ask people and give them permission to make us feel uncomfortable by pointing out when we're not living with the intention that we want to live in, we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing, saying what we're supposed to be saying, thinking what we're supposed to be thinking, believing what we're supposed to be believing, and feeling what we're supposed to be feeling. In fact, it is one of the incentives of working with us in my company. I actually give a bonus for those people who illuminate, are vulnerable in pointing out when they're lying to themselves. And we lie to ourselves every day. We get kicked in the face every day. And the only way that we can get better is for people to point out to us the responsibility we have towards our intention, the attraction that we've created towards our intention, and the perception that we're participating in towards our intention, to gather the lessons that promote and protect us and make us better, put us in a better place, a better situation. Very good question. Thank you so much for joining me. Thanks for joining the mastermind that I taught at, I think, a couple of days ago. And I look forward to coming back as well and doing more with your group. Jake, why don't you reset the room? We have about 18 minutes. We got tons of questions. So please reset the room and let me know where to go.
Thank you, Dave. Quickly resetting the room here. This is David's Free Friday training. Today's topic of speed sales training with Sean Dill. 18 minutes left, as you mentioned, to take some questions. So if you have a question you'd like to ask here, just feel free to raise hand or back channel me, and we'll aim to bring you up. Also, feel free to follow the people next to you, people on stage, and you can hear the room.
All right, perfect. And you're breaking up a little bit too, Jake. So you must have too much energy as well. Hopefully I'm not breaking up. But the question is, why is it so important to plateau and grow? And, you know, at its essence, I find that people live in nothingness. And they live in nothingness because they don't take a perspective of time, past, present, and future, knowing the limitations of the past or the meaning of the inflection points, defining moments, setbacks, failures, and mistakes of our past, trauma of our past, knowing that the future is limited by the belief in self of we can't overachieve our own self-image, but more importantly, not utilizing the presence in the 24 hours of man-made construct that we're given, what to do now and what to do next. And so they live in a universe without time, past, present, and future. They live in a universe of nothingness. I describe it or illustrate it as living as a tube of food in and food out. That's literally their existence. They push a boulder to the top of the hill every single day, giving the best that they can without learning lessons and without having fun, just to have the boulder roll down to the bottom of the hill the very next day. And so it's so important to have this idea that I am here to do my best, learn lessons, and have fun, to plateau and grow, not to live in a timeless universe of nothingness. I want to have a relationship of time, understanding the meaning of the past in the trajectory of my future that is unlimited by my self-image, and utilizing activities during the day to accelerate, aggregate, and compound my journey to my potential. And so in that realm, what we want to do is understand what we want each day in that trajectory, who we can help each day, how we best can utilize time in the present to figure out what to do now, because 100% of the things you do now get done and it becomes a reality, and prepare for what we want to do next, determined upon the situation that presents itself with activities that we have planned, don't have planned in our sleep, activities we have paid for and we don't get paid for. And so it's so important to want to live our lives not in nothingness, but know that we can increase that plateau each day by having possibilities of knowing what we want in the trajectory of what we think we want, giving the meaning of the past in that trajectory, not limiting our self-image, and then even increasing possibilities every day to a higher plateau of a probability by knowing who we can help and who can help us, creating a community of people that want to help each other and know people that can help each other. At its core, as this is a sales training, being able to provide value of giving people more of what they like and taking away more of what they don't like. That is now that probability. And then we move to perspective of knowing how to do that, utilizing the lenses of productivity, of how much value are we providing, accessibility, that community of people who want to help each other, know people that can help each other, and be a person who can help and know people that can help. And then even taking the probability to a reality, that perspective to a reality, utilizing prioritization, a new plateau. So one plateau to grow from is nothingness to possibility by knowing what you want, a new plateau of probability of knowing who you can help and who can help you, a new plateau of perspective by knowing how to utilize productivity, accessibility, and gratitude in the activities of the day, and the final plateau of reality, knowing your now and knowing your next. And if you know the what, the who, the how, and the now, we can apply our why, live in spirit, inspired. We can actually have a new plateau of why, and that plateau is an inspired plateau of application of passion, purpose, and profitability of why. The what, the who, the how, the now, and applying the why, I'd be happy to send everyone the construct of how to plateau and grow instead of living as nothingness. You are not a tube. Your life should not be pushing a boulder to the top of the hill just to have it roll back down every morning. Your life is a means of doing your best, learning lessons, and having fun, and enjoying the consistent every day, persistent without quit, pursuit of your potential. Learn to plateau and grow. Learn to move from nothingness to possibility, possibility to probability, probability to perspective, perspective to reality, and a reality of applying your why, of living in spirit with the omniscient, all-powerful, all-knowing source that loves you more than your mom, a unified, abundant, infinite system of thought that we're all part of. Let's do it. Please email me, david@dmeltzer.com, if you want to know how to plateau and grow. Stop living like a tube. Please. No more food in, food out. No more. Live your persistent, consistent pursuit of your potential. One of my favorite lessons. All right, we got about 10 minutes left. I'm going to take one more question. There's so many on here. Well, not sure which one to take. Well, give me 2 seconds here. I like this one here. This is in honor of a friend of mine who passed away because he was the world's greatest neutrality coach. He was Russell Wilson's coach, many other people's coach who were able to live in the spirit of excellence, to be productive, accessible, and gracious. And his name was Trevor Moawad. And Trevor was a dear friend that passed of cancer. But he taught me this practice. And the question is, how do you practice neutrality? At its core, the entire shift in my paradigm in life is understanding the value of neutrality. In order to value neutrality, you have to believe there's something bigger than you that loves you more than your mom. But why would I believe that? Well, I believe in picking and choosing the greatest option. I was with one of my friends this week, actually, who only believes that we are bio and anatomical beings living one life. Not connected to and through anything, not even connected to and through each other, but just in a journey as a bioanatomical chemical being. And he learned, obviously, that I have a greater faith, that there is an omniscient, all-powerful, all-knowing source, an infinite, abundant, omniscient system of thought that we're all unified with, and that our existence is infinite in its nature. In other words, there's more than one existence or journey that we're taking. There's an infinite amount of them. And he asked me, well, how can you prove that? And I said, I can't. There is no truth in what I'm saying. And I would love if you could prove to me that all we are is bioanatomical chemical beings having one journey, one lifetime based on man-made constructive time. And he shared with me, as honestly as he could, he can't prove to me that existence. To me, that is why and how I practice neutrality. Because for me, I take the better choice. If you give me a choice, Dave, do you want to have one journey, a bioanatomical chemical journey, or do you want to have an infinite amount of journeys connected to and through an omniscient, all-powerful, all-knowing source, and create and be a part of a system of neutrality, a system of abundant, infinite, unified thought? I'm choosing the second one because it seems better to me. It's more aligned with what I want, even though I can't prove it. And so in the context of the foundational principle that there's something bigger than me, an omniscient, all-powerful source that knows everything and loves me more than my mom, therefore I am now protected and promoted, it allows me to live in and practice neutrality. By, instead of trying to get more and figure out the truth that is a variable of trillions of variables that I can only pursue, instead, in the practice of neutrality, I exist as a whole, infinite, abundant being, is part and parcel to this unbelievable system. And to that measure, now I can simplify with the practice of neutrality of what is interfering, because at its base point of neutrality, I am whole, I am one, I am powerful, omniscient, all-knowing, just like what I'm connected to and through. But I can only get there, I can only get to this unbelievable lesson, light and love, by living at neutrality. Instead of trying to go get things, I'm looking to see what I'm doing to interfere with my neutrality, which is the higher self that I am. So instead of getting more happy, more healthy, more wealthy, more worthy, pushing a boulder to the top of the hill every morning, just to have it roll down to the bottom because there's always more. Living either in a world of not enough as a victim, just enough, buying things I don't need, pushing the boulder to the top of the hill to impress people I don't like. Instead, my practice of neutrality is I am connected to and through the omniscient, all-powerful, all-knowing source that loves me more than my mom, a unified system of thought that protects me and promotes me beyond my human capability. Therefore, I am happy, healthy, wealthy, and worthy. All I need to do each day to create that neutrality is figure out what I'm doing to interfere with that neutrality, my higher self, my potential. So understanding what that is in the practice, how do I practice it? How do I identify what's interfering with my neutrality? Is I know there's only one thing that interferes with my neutrality, and that's fear. There's only one thing that interferes with my neutrality, that's fear, F-E-A-R, interference. And so I know that there's only fear of the past, which results in me being guilty or regretful or other ego-based consciousnesses, or there's a fear of the future, which is anxiety and worry-based, other ego-based consciousnesses. And then there's the present, the now, and what's interfering with my now, my higher self, my potential, my neutrality. What's interfering with my next? It's fear. So in order to practice neutrality, you have to, one, have a foundational principle that there's something bigger than you, that neutrality is the higher self. It loves you more than your mom, that you're not a victim. Nothing's happening to you. You're not getting more in a scarce world of buying things you don't need to impress people you don't like because there's always more. But instead, part of this unified, abundant system of thought that allows neutrality to be our potential, and to reach our greater neutrality, we need to identify the fear of the past or fear of the future and live in the present in the trajectory of a higher self-image, of higher potential that we have to do, say, think, believe, and feel in that trajectory. And in order to do that, it's called a practice of neutrality, allowing us to apply our why. So practice identifying first when you're afraid. Second, is it a fear of the past or fear of the future? Then practice identifying the ego-based consciousness that's creating that interference, that fear. I need to be right, I need to be separate, I need to be inferior, I need to be superior, I need to be anxious, frustrated, angry, guilty, resentful. And then practice neutrality, which is not trying to out-logic it, analyze it. It's not resisting it, lying to it, manipulating, cheating it, and denying it. It's just stopping. Because remember, our higher self is part of that neutrality with the foundational principle of something bigger than us that loves us more than our mom. So what we have to practice is stopping after we identify interference or fear, and breathe and get back to neutral. And then roll into the trajectory of what we think we want by giving meaning to the past that isn't fearful, by giving meaning of the future that isn't limiting, and by knowing what we want, who we can help, who can help us, how to get that done, and prioritize accordingly to apply our why. Learning to plateau and grow, being accountable, asking for help, giving help to others. All right, Jake, we got 3 minutes left. Go ahead. Let's bring one person up to close this sucker out.
Let's do it. Gigi, welcome to the room. If you want to unmute yourself and ask David your question, welcome.
Hello. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
So, in the beginning of the training, you were talking about deposits and banks and whatever. How important do you think for us to be able to build reputation credibility is to put the deposit in our own bank first?
Yeah. You make me so proud. You make me so proud because that's a really deep understanding. If you believe in a unified system of thought, there's no differentiator between a deposit of self and a deposit of others. If your intention is to do as much for others, to acknowledge everything you have, in other words, to give it away, lose it, have it lost, stolen, or manipulated from you. It is equally important to make a deposit in yourself as it is in others. In fact, I believe you can't make a deposit in your other people if you haven't made the deposit in self, because you can't give what you don't have. It's simple math. And so that's why I teach not only appreciation, which adds value to your life and adds value to what you appreciate. That's the definition of appreciation, to add value. It goes up in value. Not only the second step of acknowledgement, not just giving away, because we can't acquire the knowledge unless we don't have it anymore. And there's many mechanisms of not having what we appreciate anymore. And that is to give it away, but it's also to lose it, have it stolen from us, manipulated or cheated from us. But where most people lose sight of the flow, not the flu, spreading this dis-ease, but of the flow, is the importance of making the deposit in self of I am part and parcel of a unified system of thought, an omniscient, all-powerful, all-knowing system of thought that loves us more than our mom. In other words, we need to be comfortable making a deposit in self and asking for help and asking for what we want, who we can help, who can help us, and how best to get that done. Asking for the mechanism of prioritization to know what to do now, know what to do next, align with what we think we want. So if you are just appreciating everything you have, which I encourage you to do, and if you're acknowledging it by giving everything that you have away, don't forget you have to refill the bank account. You got to deposit into yourself. It is equally important in the flow to be an influencer, not an influencer, spreading dis-ease with snapshots that are unrealistic or lying, manipulating, and cheating, projecting what you don't have, standing in front of what you don't have, or misrepresenting things that you don't have. Instead, be an influencer and appreciate everything, acknowledge it, and ask for help. Make those deposits, ask for more for yourself, so you can then not only make a deposit in yourself, but keep on depositing with that credibility for and through others. It's 10 a.m. here in Austin, Texas. We're at the Money Matters, Sales Matters conference with Dr. Sean Dill. I want to thank him for joining us. I want to thank my team, especially Jake, with our technological problems today. Thank you for carrying the load. If you want the Plateau and Grow exercise or my book, I'm happy to sign it, send it to you for shipping and the book. Just email me, david@dmeltzer.com. david@dmeltzer.com. I'm always here to be of service and value with my best intentions. Jake, go ahead, close out the room and hand it off. Thank you, everyone. We appreciate you. I know we had a little bit of hiccups today, but it's always great to have you here. You can catch the replay. We'll edit it out, make it sound good, look good. Most importantly, everyone, be more interested than interesting. Be kind to your future self and do good deeds. We'll see you next week.